Good evening. Here is the world news from BGI TV, Babangagede Imo TV. I am Morire Rebila Lawa. First are the major headlines for the world news. Will protect Southwest, other regions from invasion, Gani Adams. Groups writes U.S. officials over alleged plot to rig 2023 presidential elections. One way to avert civil war is to have president from Southeast. And to the next story, Buhari presents 20.51 trillion naira budget for 2023. Buhari shifts implementation of fuel subsidy removal to next governments. And again, appeal court orders ASU members to resume work immediately. Our Mamu thwarted efforts to rescue train victims. Another story, Ooni of Ife to marry 2 more wives before 48th birthday in October. And on foreign, possessing marijuana is not a criminal offense, Joe Biden. And on sports, Messi speaks on becoming manager after retirement. Now the news in details. The Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land, Gani Adams, yesterday disclosed that the Oodua People's Congress, OPC, will not only use its might to protect the Southwest from invasion, but protect other regions if requested. Speaking at the inauguration of 4,000 dependable security team, an arm of OPC in Osogbo, Osun State, Adams said the group is preparing for eventualities in the face of growing insecurity and the lackadaisical attitude among stakeholders. He said the public is aware of the state of insecurity across the country and the situation is becoming more pronounced in the Southwest. Hence, our decision to inaugurate 100 dependable security teams in local government and local council development areas in the state to prepare them for any eventuality. We have battled different types of crimes and we are also preparing for what is to come. The team will complement conventional security outfits to tackle insecurity. We have inaugurated the same team in Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo states. This is the 4th state and all these efforts are geared toward tackling insecurity and attracting investors to the region and Nigeria at large. Moving on to the next story. A rights group, International Society for Civil Liberties and the Rule of Law into Society, has written to key officials of the United States of American government alleging plot to rig the 2023 presidential elections. The group said it has unveiled a 23-page special investigative report, which has also forwarded to key government officials of the U.S. government, calling for greater interest in the Nigeria's forthcoming presidential election to avoid rigging. In a statement signed by the group Board of Trustees BOT Chairman, Mr. Emeka, and others, the group said the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law into Society has frontally and statistically unmasked the present leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and all its rigging plots ahead of the all-important presidential election fixed for 2023. This follows the successful completion of our month-long special investigative report on INEC regarding what the Commission is really cooking ahead of the 2023 general elections, particularly the February 25, 2023 presidential poll. In the letters dated September 30th and October 3rd, 2022, the attention of 16 key U.S. lawmakers were drawn regarding the subject matter. The statement listed lawmakers who were sent the report to include Senators Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Martin Enrich, Tim Scott, Dianne Feinstein, Tim Kelly, James M. Ioff, and Ben Lujan. Moving on to the next story as regards the world news. Odia Ofemam, former secretary to Chief Obafemi Awolowo, a poet and author, has advised that the best way to avoid a civil war crisis in the country is to have a president from the Southeast extraction in 2023. Ofemam, who spoke on Arise TV on Thursday, said long before the case of Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party became an issue of whether to run or not to run. Many political leaders have agreed that a candidate must come from the Southeast. He said it is certainly one of the easiest ways of resolving a civil war crisis that we have all been fooling around with. Let us agree that the Nigerian family has become one family. It is no longer to be divided between the Yoruba and Igbo between the Igbo and Arewa and the rest of the ethnic groups. We need that kind of angle, and I think that the Labour Party has literally dropped into that bracket. We now know that there is a candidate from the Southeast, even though he has come out and tried not to be a representative of only the Southeast, and that will help Nigeria solve the problem by simply being where he is. Ofemom added, it is important that we don't forget that when we resolve that problem, most other problems can be taken care of. In Nigeria, at the moment, cases of school children are a very serious Arewa problem, and anybody who thinks that the Yoruba and Igbo can make Nigeria without dealing with such an Arewa problem has thought about Nigeria seriously. Moving on to the budget concerning 2023. President Muhammadu Buhari has presented the 2023 budget estimates to a joint session of the National Assembly. The proposed total expenditure for the coming year is 20.51 trillion naira, with a crude oil benchmark price of $70 per barrel and a daily oil production estimate of 1.69 million barrels, inclusive of condensate of 300,000 to 400,000 barrels per day. The exchange rate is projected at 435.57 naira per dollar and a projected GDP growth rate of 3.75%, with a 17.16% inflation rate. The total federally collected revenue is estimated at 16.87 trillion in 2023. The total federally distributable revenue is estimated at 11.08 trillion naira, while the total revenue available to fund the 2023 budget is estimated at 9.73 trillion naira. This includes the revenue of 63 government-owned enterprises. Oil revenue is projected at 1.92 trillion naira. Non-oil revenue is estimated at 2.43 trillion naira. The government's independent revenue is projected to be 2.21 trillion naira. And to the next story as regards the world news from ASU. Still on Buhari's story, President Muhammadu Buhari has promised Nigerians that fuel subsidy will be completely removed in 2023. He gave this assurance while presenting the proposed 19.76 trillion naira budget for the 2023 financial year. According to him, fuel subsidy is a big issue in government finance, and efforts have been put in place to remove the subsidy. Following the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act, the federal government was expected to stop the controversial fuel subsidy in 6 months, which was June 2022. However, appearing before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee, recently the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab, proposed a new date of June 2023, stating that the subsidy regime was not sustainable and might force the government to borrow more in 2023. The new date for subsidy removal was again reiterated by President Buhari during the presentation. This meant that President Buhari bill to leave office on May 29, 2023 will leave the decision to implement the new date to remove subsidy for the next president. A check on the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited showed that in the first 7 months of 2022, more than 2.04 trillion naira has been spent on subsidy payments alone. And to the next story as regards ASU. The Court of Appeal has ordered the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, to call off its strike immediately. The court, however, granted the application on the condition that the union obeys the lower court ruling and calls off the strike immediately, pending the determination of the substantive suit. The court gave ASU 7 days within which to file the appeal following the obedience to the rule of the lower court. Daily Post report that the National Industrial Court on September 21st ordered ASU to call off the strike. The court gave the order following a notice filed by the federal government urging the lecturers to return to classrooms. Ruling on the interlocutory injunction, the trial judge, Justice Polycarp Amen, restrained ASU from continuing with the industrial action pending the determination of the suit filed against ASU by the federal government. Miffed by the ruling, the union headed to the appellate court to appeal the ruling. You are watching the world news from BGI TV. More to come on the next story. Dr. Abdulmalik Atta, a member of the presidential committee that facilitated the rescue of passengers abducted from a Kaduna-bound train in March, has accused self-acclaimed terrorist negotiator Mamu of frustrating effort to release the captives. Atta, whose father was among the abducted passengers, made a claim in an interview with Channels Television. Atta said Mamu did everything within his reach to thwart the federal government's effort at rescuing the hostages for his own interest. He said because of Mamu's introduction of money into the rescue process, the victims' families had parted with over $200,000 prior to the Chief of Defense Staff's intervention. The presidential committee made life-threatening sacrifices as we had to go into the forest to meet with the terrorists and even slept in the bush. It has been 6 months and 1 week, but we thank God everything has come to an end now, thanks to the support from the federal government through the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff, CDS. We were able to go into the bush and bring back the remaining of our family members. We achieved this not through somebody who betrayed the committee and the government. I am talking about the person of Tukun Mamu, who did everything within his reach to thwart the effort of the government for his own interest. As we all know, he is in the hands of the government now, but we thank God all our family members are back now. From that story, we'll go to entertainment story. Barely a month after the Oni of Ife, Ile-Ife, Obadeye Eniton Gumsi or Jaja II married his fourth wife, Olori Miriam Anako, from Ibiraland in Kogi State. The monarch is set to take 2 more wives in October. Ahead of his 48th birthday celebration, Obadeye will marry 2 wives, Toby Phillips and Princess Ashley Adegoke. Toby Phillips was a former beauty queen and a graduate of marine science from Lagos State University, while Princess Queen Ashley is a chartered accountant and founder of an NGO, Ashley Adegoke Foundation. Before his coronation in 2016, Obadeye was previously married to Adebukola Bombata in 2008, but the marriage failed after his coronation. After being crowned, Oni married Edoborn Zainab Otiti Obano in 2016. The union lasted for 17 months before their separation and married Naomi Shilekola in 2018. Oni's new marriage is coming 10 months after Queen Naomi Shilekola took to social media to announce her separation from the monarch in December 2021. The failed union, which lasted for 3 years, produced a son, Tadenikawo. Going to the foreign story. President of the United States, Joe Biden, has pardoned thousands of Americans convicted of marijuana possession, claiming it is not a crime to process drugs. He made this known via his Twitter handle in a major new step towards destigmatizing the drug and fulfilling the promise to his supporters a month before midterm elections. In addition to the pardons, Biden instructed the Department of Justice and Health to determine whether cannabis should be reclassified as a less dangerous substance. U.S. officials told reporters that about 6,500 people are directly affected by convictions on the federal marijuana status. Clemency will extend to thousands more convicted under laws in the federal capital, Washington, D.C. However, Biden's gesture aims to take the shift much further, putting pressure on state authorities everywhere to follow suit. And to the last story from the sports angle. Paris Saint-Germain forward Lionel Messi has admitted he would not be interested in moving into management when he retires. The 2022 World Cup will be his fifth for Argentina, and Messi expects it to be his last. The 35-year-old has now spoken about life after playing football. Messi has said he does not expect to follow the path of Frank Rijkaard, Pep Guardiola, and Luis Enrique, under whom he won his 4 Champions League titles at his former club, Barcelona. I don't really intend to be a coach, but former Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane said exactly that, and after that, he became a coach and won Champions League 3 times, Messi told Star Plus. I like sporting director, team building, accompanying coaches, but I'm not entirely sure either. That concludes the world news from BGI TV this hour. Before we go, some major headlines. We will protect Southwest, other regions from invasion, Gani Adams. We also brought to you group rights U.S. officials over alleged plot to rig 2023 presidential election. One way to avert civil war is to have president from Southeast. We also brought to you from the sports, Messi speaks on becoming manager after retirement. For more updates on YouTube, our handle is Baba Gbagede Imo TV. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access our broadcast. On Facebook, Gbagede Imo with Alawiye Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. On Instagram, Gbagede Imo _22 for advert placement of your goods and services, coverage of events and function. Please dial the phone number streaming on your screen for advert placements only. Thank you for watching. I am Morire Rabila Lawal. Good evening.
Oh, na, na, na. If you want to know what's going on in city, or you want to listen to the latest news and gist, no stress, oh, just tune to BGI TV. BGI TV, you're one in a million.